I just can't run a mile. And that first time that I did, I felt like I was dying, but I did it. And I was able to learn that your breaking point is only where you believe that it is. When I got promoted to sergeant, there was very few, like I can count on one hand the amount of colored people in that unit, and I was one of them. And there was just this, you could almost taste the racism in the air, and there was just, it just wasn't a fun environment to be in. There was also some sexism and not trusting women's leadership.
Welcome to another episode of our podcast. I am your friend, Wafa Umran, and this is Go Beyond. Train yourself not to cry, not to feel, just to survive them. You said I wouldn't be a damn softy anymore. How did that emotional suppression shape your identity? And what did it cost you to stand up and speak up for you and for other women?
I know that I am very white passing. I get my summer color and I get a little less of that. And at times that has, I've blended in, right? And then I've been at the receiving end of conversations that were not meant for a person of color, but that person didn't know that there was a person of color in the room. And that happened to me while I was in service too. And I would hear other people of color being ripped apart and talked down upon when they weren't around. And then I'd wonder, and their race would be brought into question about it too. And I'd wonder if that's what you think about them, if you knew fully who I was, what would you think about me? Because I don't go around really advertising, especially in the military. I do a lot more now because I'm so proud of who I am. But when I was in the military, it was just like, keep your head down and get the work done. I'm not trying to bring too much attention to myself. I'm just trying to get the work done. So like, I wasn't going around screaming, I'm biracial, I'm mixed. Like my close friends knew, and the ones that could just tell knew, but it just wasn't something I was advertising. So there were times when I would hear things that would really make me wonder about people. And it's like, okay, I'm glad I know how you truly think. Whether you would say that in front of the people that it matters to or not, I know now, and I know to be careful around you, and to be diligent with myself. But yes, I did see the military as my opportunity to get out. My environment lacked a lot of discipline, and after that failed attempt, I disciplined myself to the best that I could. I got myself up for school. I worked. I did as much as I could to round myself out. But there was still this like lack of routine and motivation. And I remember the first time I ran a mile, I was like, I can't run a mile. I've like collapsed on that every time we've ever tried in gym class. I just can't run a mile. And that first time that I did, I felt like I was dying, but I did it. And I was able to learn that your breaking point is only where you believe that it is. And once you reach that, you realize that it's much farther than you think that it is. And like, I learned that in military through physical exhaustion, but I was able to apply that to mental work and pushing myself towards goals of like, yes, I feel burnt out now, but this is going to pay off in the long run. So I was able to really tap into my resiliency, my ability to confront people and have hard conversations, to set boundaries, my ability to push myself and achieve something, and my ability to speak up when something is just not right. When I was promoted to sergeant, and everyone's experience in the military is a little different, right? And active duty military tends to be a lot of people of color, and it's very inclusive, and there's a lot less of that racist tone. It can still happen. Like there's still the institutional racism where most of the time the higher ups are white people, and there's a little bit of that coming down. When I was put into my second unit, when I got promoted to sergeant, there was very few, like I can count on one hand the amount of colored people in that unit, and I was one of them. And there was just this, you could almost taste the racism in the air, and there was just, it just wasn't a fun environment to be in. There was also some sexism and not trusting women's leadership. And I felt that almost immediately when I came in, my leadership was questioned, my commands were not taken seriously. There was even disrespectful things said to my face, and I had to go to the higher ups and be like, yo, I don't know what's going on here. I don't know why I'm being treated this way. And eventually there was official reports made about sexism because it was coming down the chain. And I had to speak up for the other women because other women were coming to me and saying things that were happening to them and ways that they were talked down to. And I wasn't okay with that. And they were fearful to speak up because they didn't want it to impact their career. They didn't want it to impact the way that they were being treated there. And I just really didn't care. I've always been the type that I don't really feel like I have much to lose and I have a lot to gain. So for me, speaking up, I have more to gain than I have to lose. And if I lose something, it wasn't meant for me in the first place, right? I'm okay with letting go of things. So I learned to speak up for other women, and to set very clear and firm boundaries and to be an advocate for respect. I didn't look at rank as a reason for me to be quiet. I more looked at, are you doing your job the way you should be doing it? Are you respecting people? Are you living the Army values? And if you're not, then regardless of rank, it's my right to call you out on it because we're all a part of the same organization. We all agree to uphold the same standards. And if you're not doing that, I'm going to call you out on it, even if it puts a target on my back, because I'm okay with that. Like, shoot me. I've already been there. I'll survive. I've been through enough abusers at this point that I can survive whatever the hell you've got for me. So I say all that to say that it's super important to speak up for others. And that was my leadership model. So when I was struggling in basic, and when I was struggling with sexism, and when I was struggling with any sort of challenge I was going through in the military, I would remind myself of that end goal of that college tuition. And I knew that my education was my way out. And I would remind myself of that to push through whatever it was. Like, this challenge I'm going through is so small in the big scheme of what I'm trying to accomplish. So I kept my eyes focused on that end goal and to remember that what I'm going through right now is for so much more. And I did get that degree, and that led me into social work. And in social work, that's where I was at to make that impact that I wanted to make. I had been in that field for about 5 years. And I was working in St. Paul with at-risk youth. These youth had been involved with the police by the age of 10. They were also under the poverty line, receiving some sort of government assistance. So a lot of at-risk factors, and most of them didn't have a safe adult at home or in their life in general. And most of the time, I was their safe adult. I was their role model, their one person that they could turn to. I wasn't trying to take advantage of them in any way or lead them astray, or neglect them. I was there to really be mindful of their needs and their goals and to help guide them down that path. So then when the pandemic happened, and they all felt stuck in their houses and their moms were telling them, most of the time these youth were trying to escape home. Like, home was not a safe place. The streets sometimes was safer for them than home. And school was the safest place. My job most of the time was trying to keep them in school, because school is where you're safe and school is where you have an opportunity to better your life. So when school was taken away and we were put online, they were in turmoil and they were struggling, and their whole world had been turned upside down, just like the rest of ours. And then the George Floyd thing happened after it's like we had just finally been like let outside, right? The lockdown had just ended. We finally got to go outside, and then that happens. And it's like, it was like, where are we at as a world, right? Where are we at as a society? And those youth needed somebody. and they were scared, and they were like, my mom told me I can't leave the house, and I saw these rioters in front of my street yesterday, and the house down the block got set on fire, or the dumpster in the back alley got set on fire. I'm really scared of the police. I was told to trust them. I was told they'll protect me, and now I'm fearful. I'm afraid of them, and I don't want anything to do with them. And I had to be there to, first of all, there's being fully honest of like, yeah, you do have to be careful around the police. You do have to be diligent with how you present yourself and what you say and your body language and even the kinds of situations you allow yourself to get in, right? Like, don't put yourself in jeopardizing situations. And now if you are, here's how you conduct yourself, right? Here's how you keep your tone of voice. Here's how you answer questions. Here's how you keep your hands where we can see them, so there's not any room for gray area, because unfortunately, children of darker skin tones do have a target on their back, and they are seen as more of a threat. That's not fair. They didn't ask for that. It's just the reality of it, and they have to be aware of it. And then after that, there was a lot of just community outreach of rebuilding community, rebuilding trust, finding organizations willing to teach youth and bring them in. And
your trip to South Africa. You said, as a biracial person, I felt more at home in South Africa than I ever had in America. Colored people here all moved as one community. Mm. I want us to learn from that experience. What's missing in our community that we can learn from the South African experience?
As a storytelling coach, I believe what you have to say and what you put out in the world is so important, because you don't know what kind of generational impact you're going to make, because we're going to study Nelson Mandela for years and generations to come, because he had the courage to say the things that he said and call out the things that he called out, and make right what he did. So I love him for that. And like I said earlier, no one is free until everyone is free. He had that message. The difference between them and us is division. Here, everyone holds onto their label so tightly. If you've noticed, I've considered myself a person of color more often in this meeting than I have a biracial person, because I don't believe in the division like that. It's like, I'm just a person of color. I have a colored person's experience, and a lot of people from different backgrounds can relate to that, not just biracial people. And when I at times tried so hard to hold on to that label of biracial, I felt even more alone, because then I was only relating to the people that specifically related to me. And I can relate to Black people on a lot of things. I can relate to white people on a lot of things. And then there's things that I can relate to biracial people with. But if I just focus on one of those experiences, I'm limiting my own experience. And here we do that with the division of race. Everyone is so, I'm this, I'm Black, but I'm Dominican Black. I am Black, but I'm Puerto Rican Black. I'm Hispanic, but I'm Hispanic from over here, not over there. I'm not Mexican, I'm this, I'm that. And then there's like this tight protection on holding on to our cultural identity. And then there's this big divide of, you partaking in my culture is a cultural appropriation. There's not enough celebrating culture and inviting outsiders in. That's where I think the beauty in culture comes in, is when we invite others in to partake in what we're doing and to celebrate and experience it, because culture is just another lens of experience, right? And when we allow others in to experience life in the way that we see it, then we're able to deepen connection. But here we don't do that. We hold tight to, I'm this, you're that, you're not welcome to be in what I'm in. You stay over there doing your thing, we'll stay over here doing our thing, and them and them and them and them. And then we have all these little micro groups, instead of being one collective. Whereas in South Africa, it's a collective. It is, I am a person of color, whether it's an Indian background, a mixed background, a Zulu background, someone that moved from Kenya, like no matter what the background is, you are a person of color. That's an empowering statement there. Like here, sometimes people don't like a person of color or colored people. It's like got this weird connotation to it. Whereas there, it's a word of empowerment. I am a person of color. I am a colored person is something that they say with pride because to them, it means community. It means that at one point, segregation and colonialism separated us when we didn't ask to be. And now we are reclaiming our togetherness. We're reclaiming our culture, our community, and our ability to build and impact upon each other without the need for labels that separate us. Just one group that comes together and celebrates each other. And they went through it together, so they're going to come out of it together. They keep us divided to divide our power, right?